I am fired up today, and I've decided to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and that is how purity culture leads to divorce. Yes, I said it. Come at me, conservative Christians. I will fight you. Purity culture is a throwback topic for me, and anyone who has followed me over from my old channel, Ex-Fundy Diaries, will know that. I have talked so much about purity culture that the unofficial tagline of my last channel was "Fuck purity culture." And I stand by that. If you've clicked on this video, you probably already know what purity culture is, but if you happen to stumble upon it and you're not sure, I will link a few of my old videos down below, as well as a documentary that I highly recommend. Purity culture is a very complex topic, but I will not be getting into all of the details of that today. I'm just going to be talking about my experience and the thesis of this video: purity culture leading to divorce. And it's really an angle of purity culture that I have not talked about before on the internet, but that I am living proof of right now. And I've shared my backstory so many times I could do it in my sleep, so here are the highlights. I was homeschooled. I was the oldest sibling of a Christian fundamentalist family. We were white evangelicals, and we were very Christian nationalist. And purity culture was a huge part of this upbringing. Some rules that I grew up with: no dating. We were supposed to court instead. Christian courtship is basically having your father pick your future husband. That's the long and short of it. No kissing until you're married. That was one that my mom made super clear to me from the time I was like 3, maybe 5. And then some more like unofficial rules. Don't have crushes even. Keep your mind focused on God, focused on your family, focused on being the best Christian / daughter that you can be. And then some unspoken rules were like, don't be queer. And I failed that one. So that was my upbringing. And then when I was 20 years old, I had kind of one foot out, one toe, I would say, inching out of the way that I was raised, because I was going to community college, secular community college, and that was really opening up my mind to a lot of things. For example, I came home and told my parents that I might be a feminist, and of course they were shocked and appalled. And I said, well, it's just that the teacher of this class I'm taking explained to me that feminism is giving women choices, and like, I think that that's important, that like women should be able to choose what they want to do. They shut that down really quickly, and so then I was like, oh, maybe I'm not a feminist? I guess that's bad. I was being exposed to a lot of new ideas at community college. Obviously, when you're raised in a cult, you're not going to be exposed to other viewpoints, and that was the whole point, you know, to be in and not of the world. And, you know, my parents were very, very, very purposeful in raising my siblings and I in a way that kept us from other viewpoints. And the other thing that happened around the same time was that I got my first job out in the real world. It was a retail job at the mall, and I met a guy, and long story short, we started dating, which went against my dad's rules. He was very angry about that. He sat me down in front of a whiteboard and listed out all the reasons why I was forbidden to date him or anyone. And I did it anyways. Not without a lot of anxiety and guilt about it, but I did my own Bible study and my own soul searching and my own praying and asking for guidance from the Lord. And I ultimately decided that it was okay to go ahead and date this guy. It wasn't courtship, so that was a big rebellion. You know, he was not chosen by my dad, and my dad was not leading that process, and I was going on dates. Ooh, scandalous. With with the person of my choice. So that was a really big deal for me. However, you know, I was still very much a conservative Christian. You know, I was still holding on to a lot of purity culture ideals, like we're not going to have sex until we get married. We're not even going to kiss until we get married. But I put my own spin on it, and I had my own loophole, which was that we're not going to kiss on the lips. So we did kiss, like each other's cheeks, necks, which is like super steamy. And again, there was a lot of feeling guilty, a lot of anxiety about it, a lot of like repenting, and then putting up boundaries and saying, no, we're not going to do that at all. And then going back on it and doing it again. And I was leading all of that stuff because I was the one that like really cared about it and felt like it was important. We had very different upbringings. So I was the one that was leading all of that, but it was very much back and forth, on and off, being okay with more affection and then going back on it. And it was like honestly exhausting and a lot of work and energy that it would have been nice to put into other things. But alas, you know, I was raised in a cult. What do I expect? Got to give a lot of compassion to my past self for that. So then I was like, where am I in this story? So then after only like a couple of months of dating this random guy that I met at my job, I go off to a Christian university for a year in Oregon. I live in California, so I went off to a Christian university in Oregon. I have never name dropped my Christian university, but I feel like I am in this era of just wanting to be more open, more authentic. So you know what? I'm gonna do it. It was George Fox University. And just to give you an idea of what George Fox University was like, there is this website that has a list of all the most homophobic and transphobic universities, Christian universities. And George Fox is on that list. In fact, they are listed as one of the worst ones. Horrified. Yay. So, yeah, not great. Not great. And I had a lot of conflicted thoughts and feelings and experiences around all of that while I was going through it. Again, remember, thought I was straight at this point, thought I was super straight. But I also had this like weird attraction slash like I felt drawn to the LGBTQ community for some weird reason. Super weird. Couldn't have been that I was part of that community. No, not that. But I was weirdly drawn to them. And yeah, I had like a lot of interesting experiences regarding that. But that is a topic for another video. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what the university was like. And while I was there, it really undid a lot of those tiny little moments of me questioning my upbringing. Because not only was I surrounded by Christian indoctrination every day, I lived on campus. We were required to go to chapel 3 times a week. I would go to the prayer chapel on my own. I would go to church and Bible study. I mean, I was just like living, breathing, sleeping, eating Christianity constantly. And in my opinion, that's what Christian universities are meant to do. Because, you know, here I was at this secular job at this community college where I was like meeting all of these people that were so different from me, that were not raised anywhere near like I was, and that had all these different backgrounds and identities and personalities and ways of living, and like that was rightly and happily challenging my upbringing and my worldview. But then going to this Christian university, it was like the perfect way to re-indoctrinate me and like bring me back into the fold, and it was working. Not only that, but at home, things were an absolute shit show. My parents were not doing well. My dad was absolutely out of control. My mom was also out of control in a different way. Things were just absolutely horrible family-wise, and I was talking to my mom on the phone a lot. I was talking to Annie on the phone a lot, and I was like trying not to talk to my dad, but he would like ambush me by using my mom's phone. So I thought it was her, but then I would pick it up and it was him. It was just, it was wild. And also when I first went into school, I was in a film program because that has been my passion since I was like 12, is filmmaking. But halfway through the year, I switched over to biblical studies. And not because I was gonna like go into ministry. No, my friends. Are you ready for this horrifying fact? I switched to biblical studies, number one, because I just really loved the Bible. It's so funny. And two, because it would help. Oh God, I can't even say this out loud. It's okay. I can do this. And two, because then I would have the knowledge to homeschool my future children in the way that they should go. Weird. I'm such a different person now. It's so weird to say those things out loud. But yeah, that's where I was at. And the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because while all of this was going on, I was in a long distance relationship with that guy that I met at work. Most of my relationship with this first person I had ever dated was long distance. And we saw each other on breaks, and that was pretty much it. And we would talk on the phone or we would FaceTime. And we did like a Bible study, again, led by me, because that was important to me. We did like a Bible study long distance. So like, you know, a lot of what we talked about was God. So that was not useful for getting to know each other. And we probably had 2 fights total. 2. Just 2. In the year that we were in a relationship. Just 2. That's it. 2 fights. Like 2 arguments, you know? We did not get to see each other in any kind of real world situations or scenarios. Like, we never went grocery shopping together. We never, like, did any, you know, I don't know, projects together. Like, anytime we saw each other, it was mostly us going on a date and then trying not to make out. Like, that was, it was just like a lot of repressed, pent-up sexual tension from a lifetime of like trying really hard not to masturbate or to be a sexual being. And then like escapism from my horrible family home life. So not a great way to get to know each other. And then we got engaged, again, led by me. I really pushed for the engagement. He actually was not ready to get engaged, but I really pushed for it, really asked for it. And in fact, I told this guy that the Lord had told me that we were meant to get married that summer that I came home from school. Ugh. I'm just sitting with that decision for a second here. It's okay. It's okay, past self. It's all right. You were going through it. I understand. It's okay. It's okay. So he agreed. We got engaged, and then we got married within a month and a half. A month and a half to plan a whole wedding, which was very stressful. It was such a weird and traumatizing time. Like, I feel so embarrassed when I think about that wedding. And I think about the people that got invited, the people that didn't get invited. I feel like I probably offended a bunch of people by not inviting them. It was just, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a very, very weird and traumatizing time. And I was barely surviving. So that was the environment that I got married in. And I give you that whole story to explain that I did not know the person that I married. I did not know him. And he didn't know me. We did not know each other. And that is how I ended up marrying someone that I was deeply incompatible with. Deeply. I cannot even stress to you how deeply incompatible we were. Personality-wise, values-wise, the things that we liked to do, the lifestyle that we wanted to have, the ways that we communicated, the ways that we thought about things, what we wanted in life, like so incompatible. But here's the thing. I truly believed and embraced the idea that as a person assigned female at birth, I needed to be under the authority and spiritual headship of a cis man. And if it wasn't my dad, it was going to be my future husband. And my dad was out of control. He was so wildly out of control. He was extremely abusive, and just those years were some of his worst. So I knew it couldn't be him, so it had to be a husband. And I also really embraced and believed the idea that my purpose in life was to get married and have children and be a helpmeet, you know? So it was those two things together that were like really pushing me towards getting married ASAP. And what is wild to me, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, but I remembered it today. The man who married us, the pastor who married us, had, I believe, one premarital counseling session with us. And I told him that I believed that I needed to be under the spiritual covering of and authority of either my dad or my future husband. And this pastor was a conservative Christian, but a little more progressive than that. And he was like, Ellie, I know you feel like you really need to get married right now, but what about getting some roommates? You know? Like, what about living with some roommates for a while and just like continuing to date? Like, you don't have to get married right now. And I was like, no. Respectfully, Pastor Sir, the Lord God himself told me to get married this summer. Do you understand what happens if I disobey him? Absolutely not. And if you're not going to do it, let me know so I can find a pastor who will. Now, of course, I did not say it like that, but that's how I felt. And honestly, which is not something I could admit for a really long time, I was really doubting all of the signs that I had gotten from God that we were meant to get married that summer. But every time I would get those doubts, I would just push them away, and like I needed to believe that God was speaking directly to me and leading me in this perfect path. And I was very obsessed at the time with like hearing the voice of God and having this like direct line of communication between me and the big guy upstairs. I mean, I couldn't rely on my earthly father because he was dangerous, so I was trying to have that as intimate as possible of a relationship with my heavenly father. And to me, at the time, that felt like praying and hearing God's voice as a direct answer, or having him communicate through signs, like a Bible verse that leaps off the page and communicates to me about my exact issue, or like, I don't know, like the sun parting in the clouds and like the light coming down, and like that was like God's voice. I don't know. I don't really remember, but it was like all sorts of things. I could see a sign in anything. It kind of makes me think of that thing with the toast and like seeing Jesus's face in the toast. I was like, that was me seeing Jesus's face in the toast and like everything else. So there was no way anyone, even a pastor, could get through to me at that point. I was on a mission. I can be very stubborn. When I commit to something, I commit to it, baby. No one's gonna stop me. And so, yeah, I was gonna get married no matter what that summer. I was not backing down. And the truth of it is, the night before my wedding, I was so not okay. I was so unwell. I was panicked. And I knew in my gut it was the wrong thing. I knew in my gut. And there was a part of me that was like, I need to get out of this. I need to run away. But the part that was stronger and the part that won was like, no, we have planned everything. We have this venue. We have all these, caterers, and like all these people are coming. Absolutely not. There's no way out of this. You're getting married tomorrow, no matter what. And you're gonna make it work. You're gonna make it work. And that was my mindset for a really long time. Even when I started deconstructing my faith, even when I no longer believed that divorce was a sin, I still had that mindset for a really long time. You made this commitment, you did this thing, you're gonna make it work, no matter how painful it is. Obviously, that's no longer my mindset, because here I am, mid-divorce, actually towards the end of the divorce. But that was my mindset for a really long time. And that's an example of how these beliefs that were really ingrained through religion, even when you deconstruct the religion part of it, a lot of those original messages can still be in your body and deep, 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 deep in the recesses of your brain. So, something to think about. So how does all of this relate to purity culture? Well, it's all purity culture, in my opinion, in my perception of my story and how this all happened. It's all purity culture. I was not allowed to figure out who I am. I was not allowed to explore my sexuality, to explore my identity, to explore like what I like and what I don't like, what I want and what I don't want. None of that was allowed. A path was laid out for me within the bounds of purity culture. You will do this, you will not do that. You will follow these rules. This is the right thing. This is going to keep you safe. This is ultimately going to make you happy. But also happiness is a sin, so don't be happy. Very confusing. But really, the heart of it is there's a reason behind purity culture. It's power and control for a whole bunch of nefarious reasons. And it causes young people to make a huge commitment that they don't understand. My friends, when I signed that paper on my wedding day, I had no fucking idea what I was doing. No fucking idea. I was a child. Not technically, like I was 21, but I emotionally and mentally, I was so young and immature and naive and traumatized. I was deeply traumatized. I had no idea who I was, and I had no idea who I was marrying. And I don't think he had any idea of who I was either. It was a really painful, really unhealthy situation. And I just feel so sad for my younger self, and I feel so sad for all of the young people who are going through this right now. I feel so sad the way that this cycle of indoctrination continues. That's why I made a whole channel about it. I choose these days not to have myself immersed in content and discussions about all of that, because the way forward for me has been to focus on rebuilding and creating the life and the path that I want and that I believe in. But I still deeply care about the community that I left behind. I care about the people that are affected, and it still affects me to this day. I am a really different person, but all of those past versions of me are still inside, and they still matter, and I still care about them. And I'm getting divorced for them. For me, but also for them. For those past versions that didn't believe that we mattered or that we were worth it. So, fuck purity culture, as always. And I hope that this video has given some insight into how purity culture leads to divorce. Marriage is not a decision to take lightly. And, you know, I think what's so ironic about what I was taught growing up, and what so many of my homeschool fundy peers were taught, is that dating was practice for divorce. And, you know, irony of all ironies, that was a message that was promoted by Joshua Harris, who wrote the Purity Culture Bible, I Kiss Dating Goodbye, and now he himself is divorced. And, you know, honestly, I don't hold any sort of like anger or resentment towards Joshua Harris. Like, I was raised just like him, and, you know, I totally understand why he did what he did. And if I was assigned male at birth, I could have done the same thing. I just didn't have, you know, the authority to do something like that in my community. I didn't have the resources or the, you know, permission to do something like that. But like, I was promoting those same messages. And, you know, it's all complicated because it's like, when does somebody cross from like victim into perpetrator? And it's a lot to think about, but the whole thing is fucked, is the bottom line. And I'm really glad that Joshua Harris is divorced and getting to choose his own path now, and I'm grateful to be doing the same thing for myself. And the idea that dating is practice for divorce is just bullshit. Like, I have found the opposite to be true. Dating is how you learn what you want and what you don't want. It is how you learn about yourself. It's how you learn about other people and the world. And if you don't want to date, you don't have to. I do not want to exclude the asexual community when I'm talking about this. If you don't want to date, amazing. But if you do it. And do it with the knowledge that you're not doing anything wrong. okay? I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing a good thing for yourself. And for heaven's sake, please get to know someone before you marry them. Like, marriage is such a big deal. And I just think that sometimes people don't really understand that until they're in the divorce stage of things. Well, that feels great to get all of that off my chest. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.